Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the show. I'm excited to be here with Nadia today, someone who I have been stalking online because I love the work that she's doing for entrepreneurs. And this continues with our series, Mami to Mogul. So, Nadia, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you for having me.
I love it. Thank you for being here. Now, for people that are not familiar with you, could you tell us, who are you, what you do, and all the good things that happen that I know about you? Because, yes, I have been stalking you online.
Again, thank you for having me. I've been in the marketing and communication space for over a decade. A little bit over 4 years ago, I decided to go all in on my own. So I have a boutique marketing firm. I work with a lot of subject matter experts, solopreneurs who are really amazing at doing what they do, whether that's financial advising, anything in the health and wellness space, true visionaries. And they need help bringing that to the forefront on the digital space. So I come in to support them on the marketing front so they can focus on doing what they do best and making it easier for their ideal clients, their audiences to find them and unlock those growth opportunities. So that's a little bit about me. I also have a soon to be 7-year-old little boy. And so when I'm not working, I'm hanging out with him and working on teaching him the ins and outs that go with entrepreneurship. A lot of the things that people don't talk about. Yeah, that's a little bit about me.
So, you just said you went full force 4 years ago. Where were you before that?
I was director of marketing and communications at a company that was bringing in $9 million a year. They were manufacturing a lot of their products in China and selling them globally. They had presence in Latin America, Europe, all throughout the US. And when I came in, I started out in the social media department, and the marketing team was pretty much non-existent. So I built up that team to a 7-person team, and we did a lot of amazing things there. The only thing was, once they picked up on the fact that, this girl knows what she's doing. And then it was, she knows a little bit too much about what she's doing. So let's pump the brakes. I was one of 2 Latinas in the company. Everyone else was not Latina. And they started playing tricks on me that were just not fun to be on the receiving side of. And one Friday morning, middle of the pandemic in August, they said, basically, either get with the program or you're done here. And that kickstarted my journey into going full time on entrepreneurship. I had always been taking clients as a freelancer on the side, but that day I feel like God kicked me in the butt. And it was like that wake up call that I needed to say, you know what? If I'm gonna, because I like working hard, I enjoy what I do. And so for that reason, I pour a lot of my time and energy into it. And that day I realized, you know what? I can do this for myself and I can have more control over who I work with, what I say yes and no to. And that's pretty much where that started.
I've also experienced microaggressions in the workplace, and that stings, especially when you know that you can get the work done, you know that you are creative, you know that you can do more. I feel like in entrepreneurship, that serves us so well, but in corporate, a lot of people don't like that. So I'm glad that you decided to say yes to your dreams. I'm glad that you also were taking clients on the side. And I'm glad that you did that because that's how I met you. I met you on Instagram, and I've actually learned how you help a client launch her book. And that's how I connected with you, because I was like, wow, okay, I have to go find who she is. And you have a son, I have 2 girls. And at the beginning of the podcast, you also talk about some of the things that we don't often talk about entrepreneurship. So can we go there? What are those things?
Absolutely. There is one of the things that I wish more people talked about, but maybe there's a reason why it's not talked about. There's a lot of lesson learning in the beginning. You're going to make mistakes no matter how many books you read, how many coaches you hire, how much mentorship you have. You're going to make mistakes. There's nothing like actually being in the trenches and doing the work. And so basically experience working for other people, whether it's in corporate or the private sector. You could be really good at what you do. You could be a really solid team player. And some of that is going to translate into the entrepreneurship side, but a lot is just simply not. Being an entrepreneur I feel there's multiple layers to that. It's something that you decided, that you created, that you decided to go all in into. or even if you're doing it as a side hustle, it feels very personal because it's your creation. Do it as a side hustle and ask questions, have vulnerable conversations with people so you can get a real idea of the things that go into it. I've had clients not pay me on time. I've had clients ask for a refund. I've made mistakes that have sometimes led to me having to make it right. And so we don't talk about that enough.
I'm an open book with the people that follow me. They know that I have flop lunches. I have had a lot of failures through entrepreneurship. So the way that I share that with people is through the newsletter that I have. So the people that are in the newsletter, they get a lot of the meat and potatoes of what's happening behind the scenes. I recently presented in front of 300 people to pitch my company, and I thought I was super prepared. I ended up walking away with $1,000, which is a lot of money. But reflecting back how I delivered the presentation, I was nervous, and I don't know why, because I speak all the time. I didn't have a clear ask of, hey, the money that your vote will give me blank. I think I just give like a genetic vision rather than this is what I want the money for. I practice. And so my newsletter subscribers got the chisme on like how nervous I was, how I felt, other things that happened behind the scenes that were naughty that we did before and after. But that is true. And I want to thank you for bringing this conversation to light, because sometimes we do see people posting, my business is a multiple six-figure business, or this is my office and all of these things. And I'm like, I think as moms, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel as mom and creatives, we tend to share more of that because we have little people that are watching. And I don't know how you handle the conversations with your son, but I know for me and my girls, I want to be very transparent with what's happening right now. If I have a failure, I want them to know that, hey, it didn't work out for me, and here's what I want to do different, because I want to normalize failure as well for them. So thank you again. Now, Nadia, how did you find your first client? Because a lot of people think that is super hard. Like, where do you find people that want your services, that need you? Can you walk us through that process?
I love that question.
Good. I hope that you are feeling inspired by today's episode. And I want to extend an invitation to join Jefas and Wealth Mastermind. We want you to be part of this community that is going to help you launch your business, your idea, your personal brand, and yes, even go after your real estate empire if that is something that you want to do. Let me share with you some of the projects or businesses that past clients have launched. Financial coaching, a decluttering your home offer. And we have many mujeres who have launched a podcast or a personal brand. And my favorite is having clients go after their speaking consulting business. Apply today using the link below.
I talk a lot about the low hanging fruit. So, the low hanging fruit, if you picture an apple tree, there are some apples that are on the lower end of the hanging lower on the tree. And then there are apples that are higher up, and you need a ladder to reach those apples. And so the apples that are hanging lower on the tree are people like someone you know that happens to have a business, or maybe a friend of a friend who is launching a business. So I focused on doing outreach to my low hanging fruit, people that I could just have access to, that I could just slightly reach up and be able to grab that apple. And so I did outreach. I reached out, I created a list of people that I knew maybe were going into entrepreneurship. Again, this was in the middle of the pandemic. So a lot of people were reinventing themselves. A lot of people were launched side hustles during that time. So knowing this, I said, I'm going to reach out to a group of people, and even people that I wasn't sure if we're launching anything. I just wanted to let them know, listen, I'm going out on my own. If you can think of anyone, if you come across anyone that needs help with social media, send them my way. I did outreach. I came up with that list, focusing on the low hanging fruit. And then I did the outreach. And then I started getting some bites. A lot of my first clients were people who I knew, or people who knew someone that I knew. I took on my first client for $300 a month. I've come a long way since then. I just hit my first 20K month this year.
Love it.
So I've definitely come a long way, but it has been a process. And one thing to keep in mind, I was posting a lot on social media. I was very active on social media. I let people know that I was taking on clients and I was going out on my own. But it wasn't those people. It wasn't the people that were following me that became my first clients. It was the people that it was easier to have them know and trust me. right? So I talk about the low hanging fruit and then focusing on being mindful of that know and trust factor. A lot of the people that follow you on social media, like you said, they might start following you, but it's going to take a while for you to nurture those leads, right? Because they don't, unless they know you in real life, they don't really know a whole much about you. And there's so much noise and so many people on social media that have done other people wrong that it takes longer to nurture those leads. And I needed clients like right away because I had just been let go from my job. So that's how I got my first set of clients.
I love it. And I love that you share, like, I just have my first 20K month. And also, like, it takes a little while to get here, right? Not everyone, or at least people that I don't know anyone that decides to go entrepreneurship. And the first month is for sure like a 20K month. I know for me, it took a couple of years and consistency of I have to do this. I have some months that are like, even bigger than that. But I also have months where I'm like, I think I need a little bit more money and I don't have it. But I love the freedom that comes with entrepreneurship because I like to be creative. You like to be creative. I see the content that you put out, and I'm always like, she plans her reel, she plans all of these things, and it shows how passionate you are about marketing, which I love that you also decided to go for marketing because you were already doing that in your corporate job. You talk about payment and how you were charging clients. What were the factors that determine, okay, I'm going to go from $300 a month to what you charge now?
A lot of it, I have to get credit where credit is due. I brought on a financial advisor who started off as my bookkeeper. And then I was able to really work on my pricing and see things, my services a lot different. And so then I was able to hire additional support. So I just upgraded from her bookkeeping package to her financial advising package. So she's my CFO, my fractional CFO. And the work that woman has done in my business, you can't put a dollar sign on. And so in a nutshell, it's just been able to have a conversation with someone who understands the numbers in a way that I don't, because that's not my strength. We're in a much better place now, thank God. But that's all been through having someone hold my hand. So she's very involved, not only when it comes to pricing, but also planning ahead. We're going to have slow months. Thank you for being transparent and saying I've had bigger months than that, but I've also had launches that fell flat. But all of it is part of the journey. I just think sometimes we normalize that all of it is part of the journey and we don't seek help. I sought help, and what I thought was just bookkeeping that I needed help with, I started realizing I actually need someone who understands the numbers, can talk to me in my language, and really help me figure out the money side of entrepreneurship. I had the marketing side down pat and the generating leads, but I really needed someone who could come in and shake things up on the finances. So hiring her has been one of the best investments in my journey. So I'm still working with her. And if I had anything to say to anyone out there that's listening, sometimes I feel like we go for the popular and versus the profitable. So you see a lot of people that hire the social media manager or the VA who does the social media, and their books are a mess. And they wait until tax season to get things organized. That's not the way to go.
I love that.
That's a very risky way to do things.
I love that you have the support. So I'm good with numbers. I'm not a walking calculator. And I always say this, don't ask me to do math like in my head, but I like data and I'm able to make data driven decisions. But I also have someone that helps me with my numbers. I have someone that I get to meet every month and we talk about, hey, this is my forecast. And I also get to look at her in the eye and say, it didn't work out. Like nobody bought. But I see those as opportunities now. And then also learning lessons. Okay, what was my messaging wrong? I have a background in marketing now, I feel like, because I was doing that. I don't have a certification that says you're a marketer, but I also like having conversations with marketers because I feel like entrepreneurship, you need a little bit of everything. You need to have the friend that knows about money, the friend that knows about marketing, the friend that knows about sales, the friend that knows about tech, because that was something that at the beginning of my journey was totally holding me back from going full force in my business. And so I just learned to normalize it's okay to ask for help. And so I see that you're doing that, and I truly love that. Now, Let's talk about your nene. How do you balance being a mom and being an entrepreneur?
These days that I feel that I have more bandwidth because I do have that additional support who's focusing on the numbers and making sure that I'm making the money that I need to make to pay myself. I have more bandwidth to also create space in other areas of my life. For a really long time, there was no balance. It was a lot of work and a lot of mistakes, a lot of costly mistakes, not a lot of time spent with my son. So I went through a separation. Now I'm divorced. And now, so my son's with me all the time, the full-time parent. And that taught me the importance of taking care of myself. I had to go through that experience of a failed marriage to realize that my son only gets one of me. And so I really have to take care of Nadya, because if I want to be around in his life, to see him grow up to be a healthy, good man of God, I got to take care of myself, the 35-year-old me, so that I can be here to be the 65, the 95-year-old for him. And so now I wouldn't call it balance. I would just say that I've learned to prioritize taking care of myself, creating space in my week to rest and to have downtime. That doesn't mean that I get weekends off. I still work really long hours, but that's slowly but surely starting to shift in a different direction because of that failed marriage. If he only gets one of me and he's with me, I want to be able to give him the good version of me, not only the exhausted, burned out version of me. And so I'm hopeful that we're moving in the right direction. So now we do make some time on the weekends to just hang out, chill, watch TV, walk. But then Monday through Friday, I work long days, but I communicate with him about it. And I feel like that too there's power in that. When I was working for other people, sometimes you would have to do things that you didn't necessarily feel like doing. You'd have to work weekends and long nights. And now I get to do that. One of the things that I value so much is I get to say, do I go on that school trip? I pick him up, I drop him off at school and pick him up almost every day. I can say, today, let's just stay home from school. I get to make those decisions. But it does come at the expense of me putting the time and energy that I put into building this business. So I wouldn't call it balance. I would say we're learning to live in the gray space. It's not all work, not all play. Sometimes it's a lot more work than play. It works for us now.
And I love that. And you said you have a 7-year-old, and I was thinking, my daughter is almost 7. And I was like, wait, no, she's already 7 because she just turned 7 recently. So that's amazing that you have the ability to communicate with him what's going on in the house. And we do the same thing with our daughters. And there's times when maybe I don't show up to a place, but my husband does. And there are times when neither of us can show up, and we just call mom and, Mom, can you please help us out? But we have a good balance at home, but also prioritizing like my health. That has been one of my focus this year. And I wake up at 5 now to go work out. When I come back, they're either asleep or ready to go to school. But sometimes it's challenging to give yourself what you need, especially as a mom, as a Latina mom, because you think, wow, I'm being selfish and like I should be doing this for my kids. But you said it so well. Like you need to prioritize you in order to be the better mom. I'm not saying that you're not a good mom, but like the best version that he can have at this time. And what a great way to show them that it's okay for us to also go after our dreams. Now, Nadia, you being a marketer, you having experience in social media, how do you decide which platform do you choose? Because there are so many out there, and a lot of people that want to start a business, that's one of the biggest question mark they have. Like, where do I show up?
I say this to my clients all the time. If you truly, really have no idea where to start and you're not working with any type of marketing support that can provide strategy, high level strategy, the social media manager that just graduated from college does not count, like a social media strategist or a marketing strategist. If you really truly have no idea and no guidance, pick two and have those two be a combination of one, the platform that's easiest for you to show up on, because maybe that's the one that you're already spending time on, just scrolling. And so you've learned that the platform enough that you know how to throw up a story, you know how to archive a post. It becomes easy to you because you're the user of the platform. So it's a little bit easier to use the platform to also market yourself. And then the second one, it absolutely has to be where your clients are hanging out. So for me, that is Instagram and LinkedIn. I enjoy being on Instagram. And then I decided in 2024, I have to invest some time on LinkedIn. I was already posting on LinkedIn, but I've been playing the LinkedIn game for a long time. A lot of the leads that I'm generating through Instagram, although that's the platform that I actually enjoy using the most, a lot of them are not ready to work with me yet. They have some things to figure out. Not all of them. I've gotten really solid leads through there. But the people that are on LinkedIn, people on LinkedIn are a little bit more focused. They're there to either find talent or to find a job. They're there to grow their business, their brand. You're not competing against a lot of noise that we compete against on Instagram. So I started investing time on LinkedIn, and that served me well. So pick two and have those two be a combination of one that's easy for you to show up on, and the other one that you know your clients are hanging out in.
I love it. Thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing your journey and for sharing so much knowledge. Now, how can we support the work that you do and where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram or LinkedIn at Nadia Ramos, and on my website, marketingconsulting.com. You can check out a little bit more about my work.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming to the show. And let's go ahead and build wealth juntas.